Hey everyone, we have a new accessory kit for the Sony F5 F55 cameras. This one from ARRI, a lot of bits to it, so let's get right to it. Between my hands right here is the base plate. You can see it holds lightweight 15 rods. And if you look at it, you see how far forward it is? I mean, it extends all the way up to the front of the lens mount here. And the reason is, the camera is so tiny and lightweight. If you put a lens and then a matte box on here, if you're supporting way back here, it's just going to be front heavy. It's always going to want to fall down. So figure if they extend out forward, then they can put the center of gravity more here. Gives you more of a fighting chance of being able to balance the camera on your tripod. So that's just a clever little extension there. And then it allowed a few things. Well, one, you can get some ARRI rosettes on either side. And now you can attach like hand grips and whatnot on there. And one thing I like about where this ARRI rosette is located, it kind of acts as a bit of a protection to the filter wheel here. And it has little tabs to stay in place, but it could be easy enough if you just grab the camera sort of like this for handheld work or something. You wouldn't want to accidentally spin that and suddenly be shooting with a bunch of ND and have a really dark image. It's just a little bit of a physical shield to stop that from happening. It's the right height and spacing and such, so if you're going to put on a studio bridge plate system in 19mm or 15mm, you can use an ARRI bridge and it'll fit perfectly right on there, and that way you can support big lenses and matte boxes and such. If you're just going to a lightweight tripod, it has all the appropriate holes in 1/4, 20, and 3/8 so that you can mount your tripod plate right to the bottom. But they figured also, once they knew they were going to go with a large plate area there anyway, they took this form and they married it to the large Sackler or O'Connor, and actually Cartoni and other manufacturers use the large plate standard, and it's one of the few cross-manufacturer standards we have in this industry of ours. This is the top of an O'Connor 2575, the Euro plate, and they just made the cutout of this the exact shape to fit in. Just clips right in place. So this is, then on the top of your tripod. So it's a nice, quick, easy way to work and go on and off the tripod real fast. Now, you look at the shoulder pad, and you can see it's so small and snug that it just fits right in here. You don't have to remove it from the camera. So you can just leave that on all the time. One reason to take it off is if you wanted to have your rods actually extend all the way out the back of the camera, because, I don't know, maybe you want to hang something off the back of the camera. And in which case, this is just a thumb screw. Take that right off the shoulder pad. And for all us old fogies who fondly recall the shoulder pad to the ARRI 16 SR cameras, this is very familiar in its design. It's much smaller, of course, but it has a metal shank in it, so it has a nice rigidity to it, little structure. But then it's sort of some kind of rubbery petroleum kind of product shoulder pad. It has just enough give to be nice and comfortable. And if you look here, it's really thin here in the middle. I mean, it's thicker on this side because it's angled for your shoulder, but really thin here. And what that does for you is make it not just nice and small on the rig so it kind of disappears, but more importantly, by attaching right to the bottom of the camera itself and being so thin, it's very low profile. And what that really will do for you is just help in the stability of the camera, as well as giving you the proper kind of perspective. This, feels like you're looking down on everyone all the time. This is a nice, very comfortable angle and perspective that you can have on your shoulder. So that's the bottom. Let's look at the top. First thing is this top plate, and it's a whole plate, a cheese plate, if you will. And what's different about it? Well, you can see there's a big old air gap in there. I can see right through to you, and it's raised up. It's sort of on these four little legs, little stilts. Why do they do that? Well, there's two reasons. One, this is where the air venting is on the back of the camera in the back here, and they just want to give it plenty of room to breathe. It's got a bunch of holes in it. It really lets it breathe by having that spacing. The other is that, frankly, with all these holes and all the mounting that you could put on here, they have big bolts for various things with the monitor or whatever else you might hang off the camera, and they just don't want you to go screwing in and bottoming out the bolt on the camera and dig into the surface and maybe even crack the case or something like that of your poor little camera here. So instead, they raise this up and then you can bottom out on this plate and it's nice and solid and rigid. Now, other accessorizing on here, you have these lightweight 15 rods on the top, so you can hang a motor or something like that on the plate itself, you could use ARRI's top handle, or you can use the original Sony top handle. They have the holes for that. If you use ARRI's top handle, well, let's take a look at this thing. On the front, we have this viewfinder mount, all machined metal, so it's really nice and solidly built and has a nice feel to it. You mount the Sony's EVF directly on there. You can have it on the front, you can have it on the back. You can actually have two of them, get another one, just put one in the front and one in the back. Why would you do that? Two reasons. One, that's of course where you want it to be for handheld work, and you get in there nice and tight on your shoulder. But if you're on a tripod, it's not great all the time being having to lean over the camera and wrap yourself around there, especially if you're like on a gearhead, or if you have it on with a really big lens, so the camera slid way back relative to the tripod head, and then suddenly in your body you have to lean way over. It gets quite uncomfortable to be shooting with all day, and frankly it might be hard to operate certain kind of shots where you have to move around. So that's where the extension eyepiece always came in. Well, let's use the handle as the extension, basically, just sliding it back. If you have the mount on the back, you can slide this right off, put it right back here, swing the viewfinder up, and now you're sort of behind the camera and operating, and it's a far more comfortable way to be on sort of a studio style rig, if you will, or on a tripod, or certainly on a dolly. It can be nice to be back here a little bit. So that's just a simple functionality of that handle. Another reason is, well, if you look at the top handle, here is where it mounts to the top plate. But you also have a set of holes here. So you can move this whole handle back a little over an inch. Why would you do that? Well, here's where the viewfinder mount is right now. But if you move this back to this set of holes, it would be back about here. Now imagine if you had the viewfinder mount here, but you took the whole thing and you flipped it 180 degrees. And you see this part of the handle is longer than this part of the handle. So you flip it all the way around, and instead of being on the back, you're mounted at the front set of holes. So that means that that viewfinder mount is going to end up about here, right? You're going to be about that distance, about 2.5 inches of range. And of course, like you have this position in between. If you flip this around, but you had it on the back, it's going to be somewhere out there. You have 4 different positions along the way that you can move that. And so how far forward or back you want to have the viewfinder. Why do you care? Why do you want to be doing this? Well, again, it's a tiny little camera. There's only one spot to put this shoulder pad. There's no point you're going to want to send it further back. It can't go any further forward. So you have to make room for adjustments for different human beings. We're shaped a little bit different. Some people have a longer neck. Some people like to lean forward some people like to be back. I'm a guy who likes my viewfinder way forward, and then I can really lean in there. Well, that's just me. Other people like to sort of be up and back, and so want to have that further back. This gives you a bunch of range to adjust it. You're probably going to set it once for where you're comfortable and never ever move it again. But the handle allows you to do that. And of course, Sony's viewfinder mount system itself gives you additional range as well, but it's versatility. It just gives you range to work and options for how you set it up. Now, one last thing that they are going to have for this whole rig, they don't have it here right now, but I can describe it for you. This is the Viewfinder connector, the electrical connector, plugs in the side here. And some people are kind of nervous about this, that the way it protrudes out of the camera. Now, Sony did change from the original prototype that people were seeing. That had the cable going straight out, and people were really nervous about that, so they changed to one that has it coming up. And so when you look at where the audio connection and where the video connections are, this actually extends out further than this connector. So it's kind of protected there, really. But if you're worrying about snagging this on something, or someone slamming into your, or I don't know, even in your case or bag that getting pushed on, there's an answer from ARRI. They said, all right, well, what we can do is just have a little plate, it's sort of like a box, that mounts onto the top handle right up here, and it just comes down, and it's a metal casing that wraps around this electrical connection, and it just protects it. It's sort of a sacrificial lamb. If you're going to be inside the case, if you're going to have something come slamming into it from whatever direction, it's going to take the impact first. It's going to take that pressure first. It's a pretty simple, elegant little piece. And when I think of that simple, elegant, functional design, that really is kind of what I think about all the ARRI PCA stuff, all this accessorizing. It's built by people who really understand how we use our tools. It does the job without any extra stuff to it. It's just clean and simple, doesn't get in the way, just gets the job done. So this is the ARRI accessorizing for the F5 and F55 cameras, and it's available from AbelCine.